Australia's defence capabilities are under review to examine the need for a permanent military base in the north of WA to protect the nation's vast oil and gas fields. The review will also assess the growing interests of other countries such as China in the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, as you've heard, the government's chief climate advisor, Professor Garnaut, has been branded a fascist by a leading British climate sceptic. News of the outburst comes as the Prime Minister's called for a halt on personal attacks in the carbon tax debate. Here's our political correspondent, Tom Higgledon.
Garnaut's been called a few things since advising the government on climate change, but never this.
Professor Garnaut, that again is a fascist point of view, that you merely accept authority without question. Heil Hitler. On we go.
Lord Christopher Monckton's comparison comes as climate change supporters get death threats and top scientists are being provided with upgraded security. Little wonder the Prime Minister's called for a cooling off in the climate change debate.
The member for Kennedy.
And rural independents were happy to comply with that today in Parliament.
The members for Tennyson, O'Connor, Lyne and New England will remove those hats.
Mr Katter even moved a motion regarding the potential suspension of star Queensland halfback Jonathan Thurston from next week's State of Origin Rugby League decider.
But the citing by the Sydney-based Match Review Committee could be regarded as irresponsible, even possibly mischievous.
Mr Speaker, I just want to make the point of order that this is highly disorderly in that it is highly insulting of the Blues.
Even the more regular Question Time contributors took to high jinks. Julie Bishop made the most of old reports that Kevin Rudd now calls the Lodge Bougainville since Julia Gillard moved in, a reference to her broad accent.
Will the Foreign Minister advise the House when he intends to return to Bougainville?
Mr Rudd replied with a straight bat.
The Australian government remains deeply seized of the Bougainville peace process, the upcoming referendum on Bougainville's future, and therefore...
It's been a pretty spiteful year so far in Parliament, and with the carbon tax details due to be announced in as little as 2 weeks, now's probably as good a time as any for a suspension of seriousness. But lest anyone accuse the Parliament of taking its duties lightly, there was at least one significant announcement today.
As circumstances change, our posture needs to change.
The Defence Minister's ordered a review of where Australia deploys its fighting men and women. He's looking to the northwest of the country to build potential new military bases.
To provide security for an energy belt, which will be providing much needed energy to Australia domestically and also as an export industry.
Port Hedland might be a good location.
The Force Posture Review, as it's being called, has already helped repair strained relations between Canberra and Perth.
Obviously, the Commonwealth Government's going to build the facility, so that's going to be good for the state in terms of security. It'll also be a big economic boost.
More independent assessors have their suspicions.
The last time we had a Defence Minister from Western Australia, there was more equipment moved over there as well.
But he agrees the move could make sense in the bigger picture.
So we're starting to see Chinese naval forces operating in the Indian Ocean. India's taking an increasingly blue water outlook. The United States Navy is still there. It's a contested space, and I think an Australian presence out there makes sense in that context.
A new deputy sheriff for the region, perhaps. Tom Higgledon, Late Line.